Hello guys, welcome back to another video and let's get started with another video, but this is related to a female mass shooter. So I think my channel is becoming a shooters documentary reaction channel.
When a rare incident took place in which gun violence was carried out by a female student, both the media and social media went into a frenzy with rumors and misinformation. Was she a femcel, a female incel, a MAGA supporter, transgender? How old was she and what did she stand for? Well, let's get into the full story. It isn't too often at all that the perpetrator in a school shooting is a girl. While standards for what constitutes a school shooting are wildly different depending on who you ask, it has been widely stated that there have only been about 4 female school shooters. Given that, when it does happen, it's only natural for the public to take notice and maybe even take a little bit of fascination in the case. Unfortunately, this level of fascination can also lead to complete chaos and a lot of misinformation. Let's start back at the beginning. Madison, Wisconsin. The Abundant Life Christian School is a private, non-denominational school that hosts all grades from kindergarten up until 12th grade. The building for the church is located near the City Church Madison and is on the same campus as a children's learning center, which deals with infants younger than the age for kindergarten. It's a pretty small school overall, usually hosting less than 400 students from about 200 families in total. James Smith, who is the father of a girl who attended the school, said that Abundant Life often welcomes students who are either bullied or had a difficult time in general at other schools. Not only that, but the school really grew after the pandemic as a lot of parents really looked for some sort of alternative to regular public schools. Smith said, "We, as a school, desire to help those who are having troubles, to be able to provide a safe space for them to grow, at the same time balance across a safe space for the rest of our student body." Like most smaller schools the same size as Abundant Life, they didn't really have anything like metal detectors or a security officer stationed at the school. However, they did have cameras and other security features. In 2024, according to Barbara Weirs, campus director of elementary and school relations, the school had undergone training with the Madison Police Department in order to brush up on their security policies. Living in the Madison metropolitan area for her entire life, Natalie Lynn Rupnow, who went by Samantha, was born on November 7, 2009. Samantha's mother and father, Melissa and Jeff, got married for the first time in 2011, 2 years after Samantha was born. Things were a bit complicated as not only did the couple go unmarried for a few years, but Melissa had also just gotten divorced from another man and had a daughter with another man that she never married in the first place. It seems that her other daughter was cared for by other guardians and not raised by her. The marriage didn't last long at all, only lasting 2 years before Jeff and Melissa got divorced. While it was agreed that Samantha would spend most of her time with her mom, it didn't really work out that way. Instead, she was abruptly passed back and forth by her parents every 2 to 3 days for the next several years. But only a few years later in 2017, Jeff and Melissa decided it was time to tie the knot once again. While they remarried in 2017, again it wouldn't last, with the couple divorcing yet again in 2020 around the time when lockdown started. This time though, they decided to be a bit more diplomatic and split custody more evenly and in a more predictable fashion. Samantha would spend 2 days with her dad, then 2 with her mom, and then 3 with a parent that would alternate every week. As if this wasn't enough chaos for their kid, Jeff and Melissa decided to marry yet again, yes, for a 3rd time in 2020.
Holy shit, like come on. In my country, the divorce rate is very low. I rarely see divorces like this, but in America, the divorce and remarrying your husband again, like it is very easy, like what I'm looking at the situation. And because of this, the divorce rate and people just don't even think about what the implication will be for their future generation. They just want to divorce. They don't think about much things. In Pakistan, especially in my country, if you want to divorce, if you want to remarry your wife, it is not in like Islamically possible, because you have to marry someone, then that person need to divorce that girl and then you can marry her. But you can't just marry her after like divorce. That is like a process of how Islamically things works. So because of that reason, there is like hardly divorces, because people think about what the consequences will be for their actions.
2021. However, this time they were all split up again after only a few months. By July of 2022, Samantha herself was enrolled in therapy. This was done with the intention that hopefully therapy could help her deal with her chaotic home life. Samantha began to state that her mom was on a lot of drugs and her dad was quite the alcoholic. To what degree this is true is uncertain, but it's something that Samantha never took back. Samantha didn't quite like therapy. Of the experience, she later wrote, "My therapist sucks. He's just some weak and fat guy who doesn't deserve everything he has now. Nobody deserves anything good." Samantha didn't think very highly of school either. She claimed to have had a hard time at school for most of her life, later writing, "I've always been a quiet kid, I'd say. Or at least that's what everyone around me has said, and never really had the brains for most things because I wasn't smart enough for most people around me, even though I'm good at science and some stuff. Nobody really looked at me in a good way in elementary or middle school, nor even in high school right now. Doesn't matter much, cause I like being alone." In 2022, a mediator with the courts ruled that Jeff and Melissa would once again share custody of Samantha. However, this time she would live primarily with her father. Samantha's dad, Jeff, had become a pretty devout Christian over the years, sharing photos of himself attending church events and functions online. In many of these pictures was Samantha, who seemed to be happy to attend. To those around him, he would dote on Samantha constantly. He often posted pictures of her and boasted about her achievements, like earning a purple belt in karate. He would often gush about Samantha, praising her and talking about how much fun they had at various events. Often he even used pictures of Samantha as his own profile picture. However, Samantha would tell a very different story of her father behind the scenes. She would vent online to her online friends that her mom struggled with drug addiction for years and that her father was still on the booze. She cited that these factors, along with bullying at school, were a big factor in the pessimism and hatred she felt towards other people and life in general. Speaking of her home life, she wrote, "My so-called family never included me because I was too weird for them. My father never treated me with respect. My father will always make me stand out in the worst possible way yet, bring up how I fail school or can't get out of bed simply because I don't want to leave. He makes me look like a freak to his family and friends. He says so much, but look at his bad side. I never really liked my father, to be exact, because honestly, why should I? Our hate is mutual to each other. He will never see me as his daughter. He will never love me like he loved his ex or her kids or even alcohol, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore because nobody heard me out and just made fun of me my entire life, and I'm sick of it." Continuing to speak of her home life, she wrote, "I was the wrong child of the family. My parents admit they didn't want me, nor never did even if I've grown. I'm always the one who sat out or in another room because they didn't want to interact with me at any point in time. Then I stayed in my room all day during the day and night and after and before school as well." Still though, Samantha and her father kept attending various functions together and her father didn't seem to be aware of how she felt towards him. In August of 2024, the two decided to join a gun club together and go shooting for sport. Jeff posted a picture of Natalie shooting on the range at the North Bristol Sportsman's Club in Sun Prairie. When a commenter asked if that was his daughter, he happily responded with, "Sure is. We joined NBSC this spring and we have been loving every second of it." However, with this picture alone, cracks were beginning to show. In the photo, Samantha was wearing a black shirt with a logo that reads KMFDM. KMFDM is a popular German industrial band, and on paper this would normally be nothing unordinary. However, anyone well-versed in the history of school shootings will likely understand the significance. KMFDM was one of the favorite bands of Eric Harris, one of the shooters behind the Columbine Massacre. In some of the very few videos of Eric Harris that exist, he is seen wearing a KMFDM shirt and even talked about his love for the band in his journal. Ever since, other school shooters and mass killers alike who felt Columbine was an inspiration have gone on to love the band and wear their t-shirts as well. Samantha was well aware of this connotation. Much like how many mass killers have been victims of bullying, Samantha was driven to hatred by it as well. It seems that it was due to her being bullied that, in 2024, she was transferred to the Abundant Life Christian School in the first place. However, even after trying out this new school, she didn't feel much better. She wrote, "Doesn't help that school was a pain in my ass while getting teased and pushed around. I always got picked on for being out of pocket as if the quietness was out of pocket for them and was just too odd or something. I moved schools, what's already happening? Picked on again, just not any worse." A woman named Lindsay O'Connor, whose daughter and son attended the school, said that Samantha was very much to herself and was known for being a little odd. She said that Samantha usually showed up to school wearing a collared shirt with a tie, jeans, and combat boots. She said that Samantha often creeped out her own daughter, but added that after about a month into the school year, she tried to have some conversations with her to various degrees of success. A couple of other parents, James Smith and his wife Rebecca, said that Samantha was still very new to the school and had only been there for the fall semester. Neither their daughter or her friends ever saw Samantha speaking to another student even once. Two other students, Samantha, sometimes called Sam, was known for being what they called an odd version of preppy in a way, saying that she would often show up to school in suits and ties. They added that she didn't have many friends and was very isolated, noting that she was known for pounding down copious amounts of energy drinks. Little did many people know, Samantha had been talking a lot online with a boy over the internet from Germany that she began to call her boyfriend. And knowing him for 2 years, she had gotten to the point where she felt very close to him. She got to the point where she was texting him constantly over Discord and social media, with this boyfriend saying that she was kind, generous to him, and usually very cheerful. He added that she had always made various little gifts for him and had never really expected anything in return. However, while this may seem like a good change of pace in Samantha's life, her other social media activity was anything but uplifting. Samantha began to show more and more signs of hatred in her posts, namely towards black people and to women she described as whores. She also began to show much more clear signs of admiration of school shooters, using their photos, speaking highly of them, and clearly idolizing them. Samantha had an account on Tumblr which hosted a large array of images related to both guns and shootings. She also posted pictures of Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland High School shooter, and made posts mentioning a 2007 school shooting that took place in Finland.
I think I need to watch his video also. It is very confusing that every time some mass shooter is mentioned and I don't know like they are talking about.
Eventually, Samantha implied that she had been given a gun for her birthday, posting an animated gif of a gun with a caption that read, "Happy birthday to me." Even on things as mundane as Samantha's Cash App account, she used the picture from Columbine as her profile photo. Over on X/Twitter, Samantha used a profile photo of Mikhail Pivnev, a Russian school shooter who had been fascinated with Columbine as well. On this account, she shared very much the same sort of content as on Tumblr. Her page featured a video from a school stabbing that took place in Sweden in 2015. It's noted that, in that stabbing, the killer was believed to have been targeting those with immigrant backgrounds. In addition, she even posted a video of someone taking their own life at a shooting range. By this time, Samantha was already considering shooting herself. Given that she would have access to guns while at the shooting range, it's possible that she may have been considering this as a method for herself. Samantha also had an account on Watch People Die, a website that is exactly what it sounds like.
By the way, the society where it is easier to get guns, that society remain peaceful, because if everyone has gun, I have seen a lot of incident that maybe somebody mistakenly walked by the around a house and the owner decided to shoot him, and like how if you have mental health issue that just decided to finish themselves off or like do mass shooting in my country. Yeah, there also you can just get a gun, but it is not very easy. It's a huge lengthy process to even get a gun, and even if you get a gun, no one decide to just finish them off. Yeah, it is also a religious thing, because in my religion it is not allowed to finish yourself, because it is considered that if you decide to finish yourself in any type of manners by shooting yourself or cutting yourself or maybe whatever the method is, it is said in our religion that that same thing will happen to you again and again and again up until the day of judgment. So that why everyone is scared spiritually and religiously about this situation. That why no one just decided to finish themselves, and it is also very negatively looked upon in society if somebody even does finish themselves. It is a stigma for even the family, so no one does that. In Pakistan, I am pretty sure the suicide rate is very very low.
Once a community on Reddit that was eventually banned, now WPD is a standalone website where users post and comment on photos and videos of real-life deaths. Samantha had an account there under the username Crossixer. Here, she only posted once, showing a video of another mass killer, Pekka Erik Alvian, shooting his gun, also using an animated gif of Pekka as her profile background. In this thread, she took offense to another user seemingly finding Pekka's hands attractive. Using slurs and a flood of emojis, she insulted the user. She also expressed her hatred for certain true crime fans that fetishize killers, calling them TCC slop. On TikTok, where Samantha went by the username Targeted Bloodsport, she rarely posted herself but liked and shared a massive amount of memes. While many of these memes were completely mundane, many of them clearly stood out. She made her love for school shooters and mass shooters in general very clear, posting memes involving many of them that you might recognize from this channel. First of all, Samantha made her love for Eric Harris very clear on this account, sharing multiple memes related to him. Next, she also seemed to take quite an interest in Randy Stair himself, posting many memes relating to him as well. And then, perhaps most oddly of all, she took a large fascination with none other than Elliot Rodger, the most famous incel of all time. In fact, it seems that she had quite a crush on him, posting about him more than any of the other killers she featured on her page. By the memes she reposted, she seemed to hold him in fairly high regard and identify with the way that he felt. She even used the Saint Elliot imagery that many of Elliot's most devout followers use when praising his actions. Given that Elliot was an incel and hated women, it goes without saying that Samantha's fascination with him and empathy for him was a bit strange. However, she hated people so much by this point that it's likely she simply admired him for his hatred itself in general. Samantha began to think about how she wanted to end her life. She still wanted to go through with it, but she felt instead that she would take a few others out along the way, much in the same way as her idols. And, much like her idols, she felt that one necessary move, if she were to go down this path, would be to write a manifesto. So she began doing just that. Samantha titled her manifesto War Against Humanity. In total, it was 6 pages long. While a good chunk of the manifesto is mindless, edgy teenage word salad, with Samantha speaking of her hatred of mankind without any real reason given, there are some bits of information that can be used to see into Samantha's motivations here and there. Early on, she writes, "I've grown to hate people and society. It's truly not my fault, though. It never was. But all of you and the world have done to me is pick and tease me. You've pushed me into a corner with no help whatsoever." She then gets more into who she hates the most specifically. She writes, "Whores and scum are things I hate the most and will always hate. You have no meaning." Samantha really hated black people as well, writing, "N-words though, worse. Once you sleep with one, you are one." Samantha would continue by bragging about how much better she is than the rest of society, stating, "I'm glad to be different and not the same as other people. I know how to be formal. I know how to use my words. Even if I get mad at you, there always has been a reason. I don't care what you think, nor would I really ever. I am part of the real thought and the real revolution." She included a page that listed her inspirations. First and foremost was who seemed to be her favorite criminal, Pekka Erik Alvian, the perpetrator of the Okela High School massacre in Finland in 2007. She stated that he was a true inspiration, making the world a better place with his final act.
Yeah, my next video will be on him. I need to watch what he did, because from like a guy who don't even know what he did, I don't know what the reason was of him doing this kind of stuff.
Next, she listed Ardra Küçükyedim, a young man who randomly stabbed 5 people in Turkey in August of 2024, calling him an ultimate saint, a being of true nature, and a word of the truth. Ardra
Yeah, she was psycho.
was very vocal in his own manifesto, praising those who commit hate crimes and calling them saints as well. The next influence she listed was Vladislav Roslyakov, the perpetrator of the Kerch Polytechnic College massacre in Crimea in 2018. She lists him as being a masterpiece of a price. Afterwards, she listed a few more names in almost an honorable mention sort of way. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold of the Columbine massacre, Patrick Woods Crucius, the El Paso Walmart gunman, and Guilherme Tauchi of the Sudano school massacre in Brazil. Samantha decided to write this last bit out, making it very clear to the reader. Nobody knows why I'm doing this. I got my weapons by lies and manipulation and my father's stupidity. I planned on shooting myself a while ago, but thought maybe it's better for evolution rather than just one stupid boring suicide, which hopefully I'll reach that point. I've planned this for myself and nobody else. I act alone. There would have been no way to change what has happened. Samantha posted one last video to TikTok, showing the tree in the yard at her father's house blowing in the rain. As a caption she wrote, "May I die like how beautiful the rain is." And then, soon after, Samantha would pass the point of no return. December 16th, 2024. According to Abundant Life's website, it was the last school day before the school would hold Christmas break. Samantha packed 2 handguns into her bag and headed off to school. She began her day at school just like any other, heading to class and sitting down. What did differ was that she talked to at least one other student, saying that she would likely have to go see the school nurse. While it appears she didn't go to see the nurse, it's evident that she did go to use the restroom. She sent her manifesto to her boyfriend over WhatsApp at roughly 9:30 a.m. Given that he wasn't free at the time, it was left unread. Samantha waited a little over an hour before she would make her next move. That was when she uploaded a picture to X at 10:45 a.m. In the picture, she's seen sitting in the school making an OK sign with her hand. This is notable because other shooters, mainly white supremacists, have used this same hand signal as a sort of dog whistle in the past. Then came 10:50 a.m. This was when Samantha decided to upload her manifesto to X publicly. While she hoped for this to be her magnum opus, there was one problem. She had made the document on Google Docs and forgot to ever make it public. So the link she posted was unavailable to anyone who tried to view it. This led to her getting made fun of in the comments, with other users telling her nobody could even see what she just tried to post. However, Samantha had already put the phone away and seemingly never saw any of the comments, as she never succeeded in making the document public. Samantha made her way out into a study hall that, at the time, was filled with a variety of students from different years. At the time, a 42-year-old substitute teacher named Erin West was covering for the regular teacher who would normally manage these study halls, who was on vacation at the time. Shortly before 11 a.m., only minutes after posting her manifesto, Samantha pulled out one of her handguns and quickly began firing. She shot Erin West right there, sending her crumbling to the ground. Samantha continued to fire her gun all around the room indiscriminately. She struck a 14-year-old girl named Ruby Vergara, killing her as well. She continued firing, hitting several other people along the way. Nora Gottschalk, an 8-year-old girl who was present at the time, said that she was in the hallway getting ready to go to lunch when the shots rang out. She said, "I was changing from my shoes to my boots to go to lunch because I have recess after, but then I heard the shooting, and screams. I just heard shooting." She said that, soon after, she saw a teacher she knew who was crying for help. She continued, "And then there was a teacher, and she was screaming like, 'Ah, my leg, help, help.' I was really scared, and I was really sad." Another student, 6th grader Adler John Charles, said that he was in his English class when the school went into lockdown. He said, "I heard 2 gunshots. Some people started crying, and then we just waited until the police came and they escorted us out. I was scared. Why would they do that?" Another very young student, a girl, speaking alongside her parents, said that she heard the gunshots and screaming, saying, "It was really scary and I was terrified, and so were my friends." The police received the first 911 call from a 2nd grade teacher at 10:57 a.m., being told that there was an active shooter in the school's mixed-age study hall. Throughout the shooting, Samantha had only used one of the 2 handguns she had brought to the school, meaning that she likely planned everything out enough to bring a second weapon as backup. In total, she fired at least 21 shots into the study hall. With 2 people dead and 4 more injured to various degrees, Samantha decided that she was done. She turned the gun on herself and fired. By the time the police were on the scene, everything was already over. At 11:05, they found Samantha on the ground, suffering from her own self-inflicted wound. They attempted to transfer her to the hospital, but she died in the ambulance along the way. Erin West and Ruby Vergara weren't even that lucky, being pronounced dead right there at the scene. For the time being, the police chose to not release their names, leaving the public in the dark as to how many people even died or who they were. A teacher and further 3 students were taken to the hospital. While 2 of them were released shortly after, 2 others were left in the hospital in critical condition with life-threatening injuries for quite some time. By 11:14 a.m., the school staff and all the other students were evacuated. Given that everything was all over, the police never even had to fire their weapons. That meant that the 21 shell casings that they found on the ground were all from Samantha herself. After the school was fully swept, it was deemed that there was no remaining threat. Still, at 11:20, everyone in the nearby area received notifications on their phone warning them of an ongoing shooting case. This was something completely unprecedented for the small town. A man who lived in the neighborhood, John Diaz de Leon, told the media, "I never saw so many police cars in my life, just blue and red lights lining the school, lining the streets. Fire department, paramedics, everybody was there." Later on, very slowly, in a more orderly fashion, the younger students holding hands were let out to go across the parking lot. By that evening, all of the students were reunited with their parents at various locations. Some were taken into nearby buildings, while others were taken to hospitals to meet up with their families. During an initial news conference that took place shortly after the shooting, officers from the Madison Police Department reported that 5 people had died. However, they soon amended this and said that at least 3 people, including the shooter, were dead. Later on, Aaron West and Ruby Vergara were identified as the victims by the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office. Very little details, if any, were given about the others who were left injured. Aside from that, one was a teacher and the rest were students. The 4 of them were being treated at SSM Health St. Mary's Hospital. Eventually, the 2 who were left in critical condition at the hospital were stabilized, but they would still have to remain under hospital care for quite some time. Samantha's online boyfriend didn't even see her message until 12:12 p.m., about an hour after the shooting. By that time, she was already dead. He later spoke out online, claiming that Samantha had never expressed any desire to commit a shooting, saying that he didn't know anything until he saw the manifesto. He did say that he knew of a gun safe in her house, but didn't know how she was able to get into it. The Boys and Girls Club of Dane County held a candlelight vigil the day after the shooting took place. A makeshift memorial was placed on the sidewalk near the school to honor the victims as the investigation continued inside the building itself. Students, teachers, and other citizens from around town brought flowers to show their respect. At a press conference the day after the shooting, the Madison Police Chief, Chief Barnes, said that identifying a motive in the shooting was going to be their top priority. However, he noted that, from what they had seen, the motive appeared to be a combination of different factors. Specifically, he said they were trying to determine if bullying was or was not a motivating factor. He said, "I don't know why, and I feel like if we did know why, we could stop these things from happening." But rather than any bullies being targeted specifically, he noted, "Everyone was targeted in this incident and everyone was put in equal danger." The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms was on the scene shortly after the shooting. They recovered Samantha's 9mm handgun from the scene and chose to run traces on it. Being that nobody quite knew where Samantha got the gun, or even if it was owned by her parents, the police suggested that they make finding that out a priority. Both the police and the FBI, on the other hand, focused their sights on Samantha's family and other students at the school. Samantha's family fully cooperated with the police from the get-go. It wasn't too long before the police went out to Samantha's father's home to raid the place on the day after the shooting, busting the door down to get in. They gathered up a few computers and other devices to better figure out Samantha's digital footprint and get a better look into her accounts. The investigators were very suspicious of Samantha's parents, feeling that she likely got the gun from them, and whether or not they knew anything about her intentions that day became a focus. However, still, Chief Barnes could see the sadness on Samantha's father, Jeff's face. The man was broken. Barnes said, "He lost someone as well, and so we're not going to rush the information. We'll take our time and make sure we do our due diligence." On the same day, Samantha's mom, Melissa's home was also raided by the police. At the time, though, Melissa was out of town and nobody was home. It wasn't too long before all of Samantha's social media accounts came to be known, everything from Tumblr to X to TikTok. The police were able to see the signs clearly showing that Samantha had been going down this dark path starting out years prior, along with her fascination with other shooters. Already, her social media accounts had filled up with comments from people condemning her actions and even insulting her. Immediately after the shooting, there was a storm of misinformation and controversy. Shortly after the shooting occurred, it was reported that the second grader, not a second grade teacher, had been the one to call the police. Many outlets began to praise the second grader for their bravery until the police shut it down, saying that it was actually a teacher. However, this misinformation continued to spread even after that. Similarly, it was widely reported that the shooter was a 17-year-old. Samantha was only 15 years old at the time. Even after it was corrected, once again this information continued to spread far and wide as well. Less innocently, as with a lot of these incidents, people immediately latched onto Samantha's case to use as an example of why their politics are correct and to make the opposition look bad, even if they had to come up with some good assumptions and make up a little bit of lies in the process. Very quickly after the shooting took place, rumors were spreading far and wide that Samantha was transgender. Of all of the misinformation spreading around this case, this one was the most prevalent. It's likely that someone at some point either confused Samantha with the Nashville shooter who was transgender or found them similar enough and spread the rumor. Either way, it quickly went out of control. Chief Barnes dismissed the assertion entirely, or rather he just didn't care about it, saying that it wasn't important at all. He said, "I don't know whether Samantha was transgender or not, and quite frankly, I don't think that's important at all. I don't think whatever happened today has anything to do with how she or he or they may want to identify." It was proven pretty quickly after the shooting that Samantha, even in her earliest childhood photos, had always been female. Still though, regardless, the rumor still persists. On the other hand, rumors were
By the way, like she has a boyfriend, so does not that mean that she was a girl?
absolutely spreading on the opposite side of the political spectrum as well. Many accounts on social media came to spread the rumor that Samantha was a staunch MAGA supporter, being a big fan of Donald Trump. Being specifically on the side of MAGA was based on absolutely nothing, with Samantha never seeming to have mentioned MAGA or Trump in any meaningful capacity. It seems that, given that Samantha expressed a hatred for black people and a love of white supremacists, they simply jumped to this conclusion. Samantha was also widely reported to have been a femcel at first, with femcels being the female counterpart of incels. Basically women who can't get a man and blame all of their problems on men. However, Samantha was quite invested in her boyfriend, and all the people she listed as inspirations were men as well. It's very likely that this rumor came about after some of her supposed Discord messages leaked online, in which she proudly proclaimed that all men should die and mentioned a radical feminist Twitter user, RadFemHitler by name. However, DMs with the person who leaked these messages seemed to show that the messages were fake solely in order to paint RadFemHitler in a bad light. While someone as horrible as her didn't really need anyone to paint her negatively, the reception to these faked leaked messages did exactly what this user wanted, and RadFem was chased off of X for good. The leaked Discord message even implies that it was posted about 10 minutes before Samantha would have died. At that time, she was already posting a link to her manifesto that mentioned not one single word about her supposed femcel beliefs. The message also didn't show the name of the poster or even a profile icon. It's highly likely that it was indeed fake. Another rumor was that Samantha might have had help from other sources. She was said to have been in contact with a 20-year-old man named Alexander Pfaffendorf before she died, who was planning a similar attack of his own in California. This rumor seemed to have more merit as, on December 18th, 2 days after the shooting, Alexander was arrested when it was found that he was trying to coordinate a shooting at a government building, something he had apparently brainstormed with Samantha online. A gun violence emergency protective restraining order was placed on Alexander, and he was ordered to turn over all of his firearms to the police. Later on, he appeared in court for a hearing. He apologized for his connections to the shooting, saying that he was both regretful and willing to face consequences. An obituary was soon posted online for Ruby Vergara by her local funeral home, saying that her funeral was set to be held on the 21st. Ruby was listed as a musician and an avid reader. She was close with her dog and her cat. Her friends said, "She gave great hugs. She was an amazing pianist. She loved to read. She was just an amazing young girl." A journalist and user on Twitter, Slatzism, made contact with Samantha's alleged boyfriend. He gave her Samantha's full manifesto, the same one that she had failed to make public on X. Slatzism made him prove that the manifesto was legit by having him record himself opening it from the direct link sent to him on WhatsApp. She soon posted the full manifesto online. While Samantha's boyfriend initially said that he had no idea of what she was doing, he soon changed his tone, instead saying that he had tried to stop her. After immediate backlash from the internet as a whole, he soon converted his X account into a tribute for Samantha, blaming everyone on Earth for making her do what she did before privating his profile entirely and going radio silent. Joe Biden, president at the time, condemned the shooting as shocking and unconscionable. He called for Congress to take immediate action to address the problem of gun violence in the nation, saying that more was needed to protect kids in schools. He advocated for Congress to pass laws that would require universal background checks, as well as a national red flag law in addition to a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. The governor of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, ordered flags throughout Wisconsin to be held at half-mast. He released a statement on X shortly after the attack took place, saying that he
Does not that like America especially need to add a law where children should not have any guns and the parents should not allow them anywhere near the guns, because if they have access to gun they have violent thought about it to use it somewhere, and sometimes they use it on themselves, or sometimes things like this happen. So I think it is better to implement a law where it is penalize especially the parents for giving their children guns.
was closely following the story and the community. He said that he was praying for the students, the teachers, and the community as they waited for more information to come to light. Wisconsin Senators Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson posted their own statements to social media as well, offering their condolences. They said that they would also be following the situation and assisting law enforcement whenever necessary. The Abundant Life Christian School posted to their own social media as well, asking for prayers. After several weeks, the two students still in the hospital following the attack had their condition upgraded to fair, after it was announced that the students would be returning to school on January 10th. Chief Barnes has continued to speak to the media. He said, "Every child, every person in that building is a victim and will be a victim forever. These types of trauma don't just go away." Surprisingly, the family of Ruby Vergara spoke out at her funeral, forgiving Samantha Rupnow for what she had done. While mourning their own daughter, they mourned Samantha as well, with Ruby's uncle saying, "We hold no bitterness or unforgiveness towards 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow and her family. They lost a daughter too. Somehow, this precious child of God lost her way." This all leads us to what is arguably the most disturbing part about this case. This is not only for what it may imply as to the buildup of this case, but what it can and will imply for the future. Perhaps the most concerning part of this entire case is that Samantha may have been linked to an online group with only the most dark, heinous intentions. Throughout Samantha's various social media contacts, it has become more and more apparent that she was connected to a growing, international terror group on the internet. After Samantha died, various online users were quick to label her as a saintess. You may recognize that Samantha used the very same terminology in her own manifesto, referring to other killers as saints. This is terminology used often by a group commonly known online as 764. 764 is classified as a terror network by the United States Department of Justice, a Tier 1 threat at that. 764 is a group that specializes in exploiting children. It does so both sexually and in a way that is possibly even more disturbing than that, by grooming them into becoming violent and even into mass shooters. The group was founded in 2021 and mainly operates over Discord and Telegram. Given how secretive the group is, they mainly refer to themselves as the Calm, short for the community. The group has strong ties to a satanic cult called the Order of Nine Angels, where it has adopted a majority of its ideology, something that the FBI itself has even confirmed. How close Samantha was to this group has not yet been confirmed. Given how secretive she was, it's unclear if it ever will be. However, some of her followers on X have been conclusively linked to the group. It's clear that at least one knew what she was up to, even writing "livestream it" as a comment under her photo that she posted before the massacre. In the past, the group has convinced a good number of minors into taking explicit pictures of themselves, has coaxed them into hurting themselves, and has even convinced one into catching themselves on fire on webcam for the group to watch.
So they are not only like making them radical extremists and using them and making them brainwash and making them terrorists, but they are doing every single thing they can do to children.
And now, it seems that convincing more and more kids into becoming mass killers purely in order to spread chaos is on their agenda. Shortly after Samantha died, a few screenshots leaked from a Telegram group that she was a part of. In the screenshot, a user with a 764 profile picture acknowledged that Samantha's shooting could risk the leak of messages within that group. Shortly after, this user deleted the group along with all of its content and made a new one elsewhere. Very shortly after Samantha's crime, someone logged into her account on X, saying that they were closing the account for good. Not only did they private that account, they went through the tedious process of blocking every single account that Samantha followed on X. Rather than simply just privating the whole thing, whoever did this decided that they wanted to go completely scorched earth, preventing anyone from seeing anything that this account previously hosted in any way. Whoever actually did this is unconfirmed. Given how much of Samantha
But the authorities did get access to this account or not? Like, what the other thing is, because the authorities can demand from Twitter that they can hand over the account so they can check what is happening there.
As data and communications have been completely purged from the internet, we will likely never know exactly how invested she was within this group. Samantha's case has already gone on to inspire more violence. Only a month after she did what she did, another minor with strong ties to 764, one that called her a saintess, would be inspired to commit murder in much the same fashion that she did. This killer listed himself as being a big fan of hers, and even appears to have been in contact with her before the shooting. In fact, Samantha even followed him on X. However, that is a much larger topic, a topic that we will dive into very soon.
Yeah, I love to watch it. So thank you very much for watching this video. I am pretty sure I did not add a lot of value in this video, but what can I do? Like, it is related to mass shooting and I am not expert in this. I am not a police officer or forensic scientist that or maybe doctor who is better in the psychology or mental trauma for this kind of kids. So I'm not that good at it, but still I want to add some value and I want to watch what is happening in especially America. Thank you very much for watching this video. See you in the next video. Up until then, bye bye.